Hello everyone, it's Tony here from Lockster Reads. I hope you are all doing very, very well on this, in London, miserable, grey October day, which seems like a perfect time to talk about my October TBR. Now, it currently has 47 books on it, which is, of course, ridiculous and almost certainly not what I'm going to end up reading. In fact, the list is probably not even going to be the list of books that I'm going to read. Um, it's divided into four and a tiny bit categories. There's the preparation reading for Remembrance Reads. There's the library backlog, of which I've actually finally knocked off a few, but I've also added a few. Um, then there's my NetGalley ones. I've knocked one of those off. Still have a lot of those to read, and I'm going to start with the most recent ones, with the ones I've got most recently, and then work my way back. And then, unusually for me, I don't usually give a toss about Halloween. If I'm frank, when I grew up, it wasn't that big a deal, and it was considered to be, well, where I lived, wherever I lived, it was considered to be more of an American thing than a British thing. I don't remember anybody in my childhood going trick or treating. Firework Day, on the other hand, penny for the guy, much bigger deal. But it seems to have become a big thing in the UK. And I'm not a big horror, scary story person anyway. But this year, I thought, let's finally at least pay lip service to the Halloween spooky season reading. So, and also, I have made 3 or 4 attempts to read Dracula by Bram Stoker, and I thought maybe this is the month that I'll finally get around to reading it. This is obviously the Penguin Classics edition. I've broken it breaks down so I can read one chapter a day and get it finished in October. So that's what I'm going to do. And alongside that, I have two short story collections. One by Elizabeth Gaskell, which is called Gothic Tales, and one by Edith Wharton, which is called... Oh, I can't actually remember what it's called. Ghost Stories? Hang on a moment. Let me consult my list. Yeah, Ghosts. It was a New York Review of Books book. So that's my contribution to whatever we want to call it, Halloween, spooky season, etc. Will this be the year I finally finish Dracula? We shall see. There's an outside possibility I'll also read Carmilla, because that's quite short and I've been meaning to read it for ages after I read Polidori's The Vampire or Vampire. So there, that's the smaller section. So I thought I may as well start with that. So then, and hopefully this month, the final 3 books of the A Dance to the Music of Time by Anthony Powell. Winter, as it is in the 4 blocks books, 4 block books. Each book has 3 books in it, and they call it start spring, summer, autumn, winter. So that'll be finished. I am both looking forward and not looking forward to finishing A Dance to the Music of Time. It's so brilliant that you kind of don't want it to end. But we are in the final straight on that one. And then we are in... Well, where do I go? With the library backlog. I have shown... Actually, the only other sort of there's 2 other random books not that I picked up on... There's a local charity shop on Acton High Street. It's a Scope shop. It normally has a terrible selection of second-hand books, most of which I don't want to read. But bizarrely, it had the Sebastopol sketches by Leo Tolstoy, which got mentioned on somebody's chat. I can't remember what the proper name of his channel is. I'll put a link in the show notes. And I've started reading this. It's not very long, as you can see. It's actually really interesting and beautifully written. It's translated by David Macduff. This is the Penguin Classics edition, I think this looks like a 70s, 80s one. Yeah, 1986. Although obviously Tolstoy wrote it in 1855, 1856. So that's one random thing. And also, it had, and as this is Victober, and I may as well make a small nod towards that. I found this as well. The Death of Queen Victoria, Last Days of Glory. I love the little gold thing by Tony Rennell. Yeah, Rennell or Rennell. I'm going to say Rennell. This is what it says. I did make a little start to this. I'm not sure if it's going to be any good. I don't know anything about Tony Rennell. But what's better than in Victober than perhaps reading a book about Queen Victoria herself? I do have a biography of Queen Victoria to read potentially as well. Excuse me. But I don't know whether that's going to happen. We shall see. So then, blimey, I've got so many piles of books here that they keep falling down. So obviously going back to the library backlog, I'll go through a lot of these very quickly because you've seen them already, and then pause for the new ones. So we've got Women All on Fire, The Women of the English Civil War by Alison Plowden. I have made a small dent in this. This is one I plan to finish over the weekend because I'm taking it with me. I'm out and about this weekend, unusually. Then we have England and Natural History by John Lewis Stemple. How are we going to pile these up? Then we have Claire Jackson's Devilland, England Under Siege, 1588 to 1688. This is part of my sort of Civil War and beyond project. Arnhem Black Tuesday by Al Murray, which says exactly what it is. God, there's so many of these books here. Decency and Disorder, The Age of Kant, 1789 to 1837. Is 1837 Victoria's, when Victoria comes to the throne? Is that why they picked those two dates? We shall see. Arise, England, Six Kings and the Making of the English State by Caroline Burt and Richard Partington. This is a big chunky book. I really want to read this. I might move this up the list because it's a big book and it will take a time to read. Then there's Dante by Alessandro Barbero, translated by Alan Cameron. Biography of Dante, OVS. God, did I really need to say it quite like that? Then, hang on, moving things around. Oh, A Subject for Taste, Culture in 18th Century England by Jeremy Black. You've seen these numerous times. Disclosure, Unravelling the Spy Cops Files by Kate Wilson. Again, this one's moving up the list because I want to read it. I've renewed these so many times I'm beginning to feel incredibly guilty about it. And then The Restless Republic by Britain Without a Crown by Anna Keay, which seems a perfect book to pick up after the English Civil War by Diane Purkis. So those are the ones we mentioned before. So the new ones on the library list are a reread. Oh, can you actually see that? A reread of We by Yevgeny Zamyatin, one of the early dystopian novels, potentially an influence on 1984. I have read this before, but I wanted to go back and reread it. I had a dystopia thing on my mind. Don't know why. Maybe something to do with the current world. And then two. I won't talk about those till late. Then there is T.S. Eliot and Prejudice by Christopher Ricks. This is about T.S. Eliot, well, mainly anti-Semitism, published in 1988. I saw mention of this, and I really like T.S. Eliot's poetry, but I am aware that his attitude to Jewish people is not good, and I just thought this would be an interesting read to get an idea of what's what. And then Frank Kermode is a literary critic who has been recommended to me a couple of times. This is just a collection of essays called An Appetite for Poetry. This one I'm going to split up and doing like a read one of the essays a day. I saw that, I think was it Ray Bradbury who said you should target to read one poem, one essay, and one short story a day, and that was part of his reading plan. And I think I quite like that as an idea because you can slot them in whenever you get a spare moment. And then I've got 2 self-help books. I have no idea why I got these out of the library, but I've got Getting Things Done: The Art of Stress-Free Productivity by David Allen. I saw this recommended. I am stress-free non-productivity in human form a lot of the time. So I thought maybe I could help myself with some of these. And Deep Work by Cal Newport, which has been recommended to me by a couple of people. I am more interested in this one than this one. I have a problem with self-help books because I went through a phase in the 1990s of reading loads of them, and they all effectively end up saying the same thing, and they all end up not being. They all are very American, and both of these are. And Americans have a slightly different attitude and belief system to Brits. We are much more cynical and much less positive about life in general, and I don't think we quite believe as much in the world of what's the thing I'm looking for? What's the phrase I'm looking for? There is no British dream like there is an American dream. So they don't often work for me, and I find myself thinking, just no. But we shall see. I'm trying to go into them with an open mind, even though it absolutely doesn't sound like that. I'm still working my way through John Clare's major works. We are now 153 pages in of, well, excluding the notes, 487. It's going slowly. I have taken to reading these out loud, which I'm sure will contribute to my housemates thinking that I'm insane. I talk to myself enough as it is, and recording this probably makes my housemates think I'm insane. Yes. So I really would like to make a concerted effort to finish this month because I feel I haven't read enough poetry this year, and I would really like to read some more. And I might go for something shorter. I should probably pick one of these big major works type books to work through over like a quarter, one for each quarter, and work through them over time. But I am enjoying this. It's really good poetry, and as I've said many times, he knows how to write about about animals, the countryside, plants, the seasons, and a Britain that's long gone. So there's that. So that's kind of the library list. The NetGalley list is still pretty extensive. There is these are all on sort of Kindle equivalents, so I don't have copies of these. There's Reign of Ruin, Tokyo, Hiroshima, and the Surrender of Japan by Richard Overy. I'm currently reading that. I'm doing that. I'm reading one chapter, highlighting notes, and then going back over it. I have lots of things to say about this subject, which I'll probably bore you with at some point. The Boundless Deep by Richard Holmes, which is about Tennyson. Kings, Queens, and Fallen Monarchs by Robert Stove. The Private Life of James II by Justine Brown. The Search for John DeWitt by John Chase. I'll probably hold that over till November and Remembrance Reads, which we'll talk about in a second, because that's about an American soldier in World War One. How to Be Avant-Garde, Modern Artists and the Quest to End Art by Morgan Faulkner. Awake, William Blake and the Power of the Imagination by Mark Vernon. The Army That Never Was by Taylor Downing. That's about World War II. Malcolm Before X by Patrick Parr. Unfortunately, She Was a Nymphomaniac, A New History of Rome's Imperial Women by Joan Smith. The Last Dynasty, Ancient Egypt, From Alexander the Great to Cleopatra by Carol Ann Lee. Swimming Pretty by Vicky Volosik. Into the Reich, the Red Army's Advance to the Oder in 1945 by Prit Buttar. Oliver Cromwell, Commander-in-Chief by Ronald Hutton. That's I don't think that actually is a NetGalley book, but that is the follow-up to to the book. It was a NetGalley book which I have read, which was the book about Oliver Cromwell before he became famous, The Making of Oliver Cromwell by Ronald Hutton, which I enjoyed and recommend. And I think that's it for the NetGalley ones. Have I missed anything? No. As you can see, as with the library, I've repeated the number of these books several times. But my plan is to make a dent as much of them as possible. But the other thing sitting over us is Remembrance Reads. Now, I'll do a proper announcement video for Remembrance Reads at some point on probably Monday. But those of you who've been following the channel since it began last November, is that every November I call it Remembrance Reads, and I devote most of my reading to fiction, non-fiction, poetry, essays about World War One, because Remembrance Day is November the 11th in the UK, and it seems a suitable time and a place to do this. Let me just have a quick sip. My mouth is very dry. Lovely. I didn't need to make that noise really. And so I'm doing some preparatory reading in October for November. And also there's a potential that I will get my first author interview on this channel about on this subject. So I want to do some preparation. So I'll be rereading a couple of books. I shall be rereading The Great War and Modern Memory by Paul Fussell. I'll be rereading David Jones' Engraver, Soldier, Painter, Poet by Thomas Dilworth. In November, I obviously will be rereading In Parenthesis. That's the book I reread every year in Remembrance Reads. I've been doing Remembrance Reads now for... This might be year 5. It's definitely year 4. And also I'm doing some support reading and rereading for the David Jones In Parenthesis. So obviously there is In Parenthesis itself. I will save most of this reading for this, but I want to go through my as you can see, I've marked it up a few times, and there are notes and comments on sticky notes inside it, etc. That I want to gather together, so I've got them in one place. And then there's a supporting reading on David Jones, as I said, the biography. I want to reread again. There's a lot of notes in that. This is The Dying Gaul and Other Writings by David Jones. This is a collection of essays. The one I most want to reread, there is the man himself. There's one in here on art in relation to war, which I really want to reread. But all of the essays I remember finding quite interesting. So there's that, and there's also Die Greatcoat, a self-portrait of David Jones in his letters, edited by Rene Haig, which this one, they're all Faber books because they've obviously all follow and this is a thing of David Jones. The font and design is a very David Jones design. I've not read this one. Dying Gaul is a reread. I was thinking about having a go at reading another one of his long poems, and this is one I always struggle to get right, the Anathemata. I'm probably mispronouncing that wrong. Hopefully the author I'm going to talk to will be able to tell me how I should say it. I struggled with this. It's In Parenthesis is thick with allusions and references to previous books and history. This is even thicker, so I might save that for another day. I did, as you see, I have started it, and it is a kind of amazing piece of work, but it's something you need to devote. If you want to do it properly, you're not going to be able to read more than a couple of 5 or 10 pages in a day, as a thing. So that, unbelievably, I think, is the list of all the stuff that's on my list as potential reading for October. How much of it I'm going to get through is moot. It all comes down to how much time I devote to reading rather than doom scrolling. It is very easy in 2025 to get deeply involved in worrying about the world. But fundamentally, there's only a limited number of things that you can have a direct effect on, and allowing the things you can't change to affect you is bad. Was it Eleanor Roosevelt that once said, "No one has the right to make you feel bad about yourself"? And I think that applies to about the world as well. Also, deep down, I have a sort of positive belief in the rightness of things, and that all great. There's a Gandhi quote, but all great dictators, all great villains, all great horrible fall in the end. They overreach themselves. The question is how much damage they do before they fall. And you have to bear that in mind. So October, I'm going to try and box myself off from the world, which is not what I mean, but you kind of reduce my wasted energy with the world and focus on reading as many of these books as I can. I can realistically finish one book a day if I devote my time, if I devote the time I waste on pointless things. I read quite quickly, even non-fiction, but it's how you choose to use your time. This has suddenly become slightly philosophical, and it's going on for quite a long time. Suffice it to say, I'm looking forward to October. I do like autumn; it's my favourite season. Even though in England it involves a lot of grey skies and rain, I do kind of find it the start of cosy season. Even though now I've said the word cosy, I find it really annoying. But hopefully you'll join me in. If you feel like joining me in reading any of these things, then feel free. Like, subscribe, comment, all of which helps reach more than 2 people. I'll put my Ko-fi thing in the thing. So if you feel like buying me a cup of coffee, or a pint of beer, or whatever, there should be a beer one. Although people would probably frown upon that. Just think of my Ko-fi account as my beer and chocolate account. I know that's probably not likely to get people to donate to me. If somebody donates enough money, it'll be my book account. But let's just call it my beer and chocolate account. Feel free to donate there. As I said, there'll be a Remembrance Reads announcement video. I'm going to the theatre on Saturday to see Born with Teeth, which is the play about Shakespeare and Marlowe, with Ncuti Gatwa of Doctor Who fame in it. And on Sunday evening, afternoon evening, I am going to see Brentford versus Manchester City at the G-Tech Stadium, because a friend of mine can't go and they've given me their ticket. So it's actually a bit of a weekend. God, it's suddenly gone very dark in here. Let me see if I can get a light on for the last bit of it. God, where's my light switch gone? Christ. Everything in here is a mess. Oh, God, that's probably even worse. Anyway, there you go. Just under 25 minutes. So it'll be 25 minutes by the time I finish waffling. Have a good one, everyone. And I will see you all at some point after the weekend. Bye-bye.